Hofer and Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm really excited about our next guests because they have a book that is really, like, to me, it's like a history book. It's very, very cool. It's the second edition. We're going to talk about it. So let's welcome to the show Dan and Dave. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
So this book was off the shelf, basically, at print for like 5 years, and now we're having another edition of it. Tell us how that came about, that this keeps evolving over all the years.
Well, the main reason for a second edition was really due to a lack of availability of the first edition. There was a specific amount made up. They sold out by about 2019 because it was originally released in 2014. And then it was just a few years of, hey, dude, where can I get your book? Oh, you can. Hey, dude, where can I get your book? And then Dave and I, and of course my wife, Heather, has been very helpful with all this. We're, just the original publisher there was an original publisher who was going to do it, which was Handshake. And then Bazillion Points took over, for reasons left unexplained, and put it out, but they were not going to be interested in pressing anymore. So we ended up, after talking to a few publishers, just saying fuck it and doing it ourselves. And we just decided to have it coincide with my 60th birthday, which was last week, because the original edition came out on my 50th birthday.
That's pretty cool.
So the second, as far as like what makes the second edition different, there would be the foreword by Tomas Lindberg from Out the Gates, and then there's a new color photo picture area in the back with some pretty recent stuff that I've even done this year. But I probably answered like 4 questions like that, so sorry.
Oh, that's perfect. And yeah, so are some of the pictures in there from this year at, say, Sonic Temple or Welcome to Rockville?
No, they're the only picture from the Anthrax stuff was when I played with them in Santiago, Chile, the month before that. But that is in there.
And what was it like after like 40 years to get back together and play like that?
It was pretty cool. It was unexpected when I was first contacted by Scott, but Frank couldn't do some shows, and the majority of it was in Latin America, from Mexico on down, and then those 2 shows that you mentioned. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun. Playing some stuff I'd heard a million times but never actually played. And obviously, I played with Scott and Charlie before in another bands, but getting to know Joe and John. John's a native guitar player, the guy from Shadows Fall, has been with them for 10 years. Was great, made some new friends like that. And yeah, it was a good time. I got to go to some cool places like Ecuador and Costa Rica I've never been to before.
Yeah, see, that's this shirt right here. It has a picture of a sloth, and it says just do it later. And it's I go to Costa Rica all the time, so same with the hat. See, it says Costa Rica, so that's pretty funny.
Costa Rica was great.
I saw you guys played in San Jose, so that was pretty cool because it's not often that metal plays in Costa Rica.
Yeah, those people went nuts. That was a club show, and it was hot as balls, but really fun.
It would be there, right?
Yeah, I mean that's tropical, dude. There's walk out of the hotel in the evening to go burn one, and it's at dusk, and all the birds. It was so loud. I was just like, "What the fuck's going on?" Recorded it on my phone. It's just like squawking at like 90 decibels, and
How about the howler monkeys? Did you hear the howler monkeys?
I don't think I did, but I was told about them.
Yeah, they're a trip. So, Dave, tell us a little bit about your experiences writing the book and, how it felt to put this kind of history out there.
I mean, the experience was great. I mean, Dan is somebody that I admired from a distance, for many years, and randomly would kind of see him here and there. The one fun story is how my wife is from the Pittsburgh area, and one time I was out there visiting her, and we went to a show, a Napalm Death, Cannibal Corpse, Macabre, somebody else probably, and Dan and his wife were just there randomly. I didn't approach him at the time, but I just remember thinking like, oh fuck, like what is he doing here? That's cool. And I loved SOD and Brutal Truth. And then eventually had the opportunity to go on tour with Brutal Truth when they got back together in 2007 and then again in 2008, which is when the idea for the book first came about. So I don't know, it was very surreal getting to meet him and just kind of hang out and spend time with him and have a laugh and have a beer and just kind of hang out. In terms of putting his story out there, I mean, I feel honored to be the one to do that because, again, I'm a great admirer of his work and now him as a person that I know him actually. And so I took it very seriously, despite having a laugh a lot of the time with him because, I don't want to take it too seriously because he is very funny. But yeah, I mean, that's not every day you get to do a project like this. And I didn't want to half-ass it, nor did I want to make a joke of it because his career is incredible and very important. So yeah, it was, I guess, not to like overstate it, but I consider it to be an honor to have been the one to be able to do that.
And it's pretty cool because unlike nowadays, there was really no record of things and stories from back in the day either. Like now everybody records everything that happens. Lucky for us in the 80s, most of this stuff was not recorded, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, shit, you play a show and the first 3 rows, everybody's recording a show with their phone and barely watching the band.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's a little over documentation, but I know what you mean because if a band started now, they'd be able to have be very easy to capture their whole career. Whereas back in the day, what did you have? I mean, if you wanted to see a video now of Nuclear Assault playing Lemoore in 1985, it would be some grainy VHS, 100th generation, VCR type tape and everything.
No doubt.
Yeah, but that's what also made it classic.
Yeah.
I mean, be like having a classic car or something, I don't know. But
well, it was classic like that because back then, even with music, you went to a show, you didn't even know if it was going to be something you liked. You just saw something and was like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to go to the show. You didn't have a way to preview it. You just went.
Well, yeah, that's like how you bought records too. When I got into hardcore, I just tried to buy records with if a band had at least 20 songs on the record, I'm like, oh, hey, this is probably good. And that only failed once where they were called TMA and the record was called What's for Dinner. And they had 20 pop punk songs on it. And I said, verily, I have erred. Happened once.
I just want to go back to the thing you talked about, it being kind of like a history book. One thing that like I don't think anybody but me cares about is that, I don't know, I have always loved, I work in a research center now. I've always loved that kind of like, when I was in school, writing a research paper as like a project, that was my like safe, comfortable place. I love doing research. And so I pretty much, well, didn't have to insist to anybody else, but I was determined to have an index in the book because I really like the idea of somebody in God knows how many years writing a book on death metal, and they can look in the back of this book and go to the D's and see, oh, death metal is mentioned on this, that, and the other page, and they can use it as like a source material for whatever paper or book that they're working on. I hope that someday before I die, I can see this book cited in another paper or book. That would just like warm my heart to no extent.
That would be cool. And I did notice the index. I was like, wow, that is pretty cool. And especially for the reason that you're saying, and you could kind of use it to go through and look for different things that you want to look for. And then it's funny that you mentioned about citing it, because I had a history class in high school back in the 80s, and the only thing I had to do was an oral presentation for the whole semester, and I chose to write about Ozzy Osbourne.
Cool.
And I got an A in my history class for talking about Ozzy, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, if that's you write about things that you're passionate about, and that would have made sense. So,
no doubt.
Yeah.
And so, Dave, what would be one of your favorite stories of either from the book or from all this time of putting the book together?
Well, there was like one thing that happened that is not in the book, but just kind of like between Danny and I, when we were doing interviews, that stuck out to me as a drummer. At the time, I guess it was probably like Danny's black metal band, Nocturnal Hellstorm. We took a break and he played me a CD of some recordings. We just like went into his car and listened to them. And there was like a slower part, and the drummer in the band did like a little like ride cymbal kind of like flourish. And I heard that and said, oh, that's a tasty little ride cymbal lick there. And Danny looked at me and he was like, I was wondering if you would notice that. And I was kind of like, I passed the test on this ride cymbal. I don't know, whatever. I know it wasn't a test, but I was just like, oh, that's fun that we are both kind of like tuned into the same things there. And I also love the story in the book that Keith Bennett from Wrecking Crew tells about, Dan, you could obviously tell it better, but it was like, you're wearing some shirt, a straight edge band that says like, I don't need your drugs.
Oh,
that always cracked me up.
You mean Uniform Choice? That was the band.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It said on the sleeve, it said like, I don't need your drugs. And our joke was that's because your drugs suck. It's like, I don't need your drugs. I need his. Right? Yeah. And then the other thing was the sleeve. I cut the sleeves off my shirt. So then I just had this little sleeve that said, I don't need your drugs, like this tube of cloth. And I'm like, I wonder if I could stretch this over my cat so he could be a cat commando. And he'd just walk by and glare at you while you're smoking a joint, and that would be on his back, you know?
Oh, that's great. I love it.
You know, that would be like contortion. I wouldn't do it to him.
Yeah.
So, you know, I find it interesting too. I was thinking about this back in the summer because I was at Grass Pop, and I heard perform live one of the SOD songs, but altered a little for 2024. I'm like, man, would SOD even be able to be a band in 2024? Have you thought about that?
Oh, I've thought about it, but SOD wouldn't be able to be a band since 2001 because we haven't done any shows since then. And
Right.
that is something that's out of my hands. One member of the band isn't interested in participating, and so that kind of shot that. But okay, I'm curious. Who was doing an SOD song?
Oh, that was at Grass Pop, and of course, it was Mr. Bungle.
Ah,
And
okay, well,
so it's funny because here, when they play the festivals here and play the song, they say "Speak Spanish or die."
well, I did the show. I did that with them in Columbus.
Nice.
I
See,
went up on
and
stage with them, so that was great because I got to play with Dave Lombardo for a song
I know, right?
after
And
40 fucking years. Yeah.
is that of anybody that's going to play drums? If it's not going to be the original for that song, it should be Dave, right?
No, he nailed it. He actually played some of it too fast. I'm like, yeah, slow down, buddy.
So it it was funny at Grass Pop. They changed it to "Speak Flemish or Die."
That makes sense. Yeah, stay local. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool that you had this come out on your birthday both times. And so what have people been saying now that there's another copy? Like, people have been waiting for this for a while, right?
Yeah, I think there's people that are psyched because there's a lot of people. It's funny. You'll talk to people all over the world who go, I'm so glad there's another copy because, I lent it to my friend 3 years ago and then fell out of touch with them, or he moved and never got in touch with me again. And now I don't have the fucking book because the guy has it. So there's a few people like that. And then kind of things that are kind of touching, like where I was working in a record store here for a while. And this girl would come in once a year in early June. She was like 14. Next year she was 15. And she would go, is your book out yet again? And I go, no. And she goes, shit, my dad's birthday is June 15th, and I want to get him one for his birthday. And I go, sorry. And then she'd come back. I'd see her 364 days later or something like that. And she's gone, sorry, still not available. So I'm glad that it's available now. I hope she knows. But stuff like that, just where people have been coming up, puppy dog eyes, and now you can say, okay, now it's available. So that's a good feeling.
Absolutely. And so what's your possibly favorite story from either the book or creating the book?
Well, I think just, creating the book with Dave because it was just really cool. I mean, all the stories in the book, I don't really have a particular favorite. There's a lot of cool stories in there. But just putting the whole thing together and how we just went about it, just as staying motivated but still being lazy in some aspects, like and still being who we are. And because, Dave had never taken on something of that magnitude, and I've never been the subject of a biography. So I think we managed to, pretty much along the lines of the music I've played in my career, just keep it where it's exactly how it should be without, outside influences and stuff like that.
I agree so
Manager
much.
saying, meow.
Wants to be part of the interview.
Yeah, it's feeding time around here now, so you might.
So everybody can get Perpetual Conversion at perpetualconversion.com. Is there anything else that you want to let people know, how to reach out to you, connect to you on socials, anything about anything you have going on?
There is a Facebook for the book itself, but I am not on any social media. Just being lazy and unresponsive. That's me. So, Dave, is there anything you wanted to throw out there?
Nah, I mean, the Facebook page is just Dan LILKER book. And then you already said perpetualconversion.com. This is like Danny was saying, just like the kind of spirit of the book. to me, to make like a whole Instagram page or a website like for the book, I don't know. It's kind of like an underground thing. We're not trying to like make it to the bestseller list or anything. So there is no like, you know,
they should
connect with us
actually
here, tag this, you know, blah blah.
have them write a PO. Have them write a PO box or something like the old days.
Oh God.
Could do like book trading instead of tape trading.
Dude, it was enough work, like just getting all of like the shipping straight and all of that, and like setting up the big cartel page to like manage, you know, and like whatever. I have friends in bands that are like quite successful and have talked to them about like self-managing their Instagram pages and whatever. And it just sounds like a complete fucking nightmare. And for something like this, that is just kind of like not kind of, it is like a DIY project. It started as just like a labor of love. It's like, just, we don't want to try too hard.
I think it should kind of be that way anyway. Like you said, it's like an underground type of thing. So it should kind of stay that way. I think it's kind of cool.
Well, it's also that whole thing with Instagram and all that. That's more of something that would just have current relevant updates. Now, sure, we could really push the envelope with that and be like, all right, well, now there's only 371 books left as of today. There's not enough that would constantly feed that, where somebody would go there would be nothing different, Yeah. The Lilker book goes out and gets an ice cream cone, it's like Facebook shit.
And there's limited copies, so people just have to go to perpetualconversion.com and just get their copy before they're gone.
Yeah, we did 500 of them. If we had an Instagram page, it would end up having 2 posts on it, which would be the book is out, and then X amount of time later, the book is sold out. And that would be the entire page probably. There
it is. All right. Well, guys, it's incredible that you put this book out there, though, because there's so many great stories and so many great things that have happened through the years. And you guys rock. Thanks for putting it out there, and thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
You're very welcome, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.